Hey guys, welcome back to Trekyards. I'm Captain Foley.
And thanks for watching today's video. Tune in for the live tonight, and we'll see you next time for another Trekyards review.
Oh, you're in the faster time. I was going to go really slow in a second. You're really screwing up that joke. I was going to be like...
But I already heard the jokes, Stuart. I was giving the jokes of the past for me.
Today, we're talking
I can fix it. I can fix it. I can fix it.
Prodigy. Season 1, Episode 8. Time Amok. Time Amok. Like Amok Time, only different. I think I hear something a little bit too fast there, but that's okay. But I'll try to slow down on myself.
13 out of 10, Stuart? My God. What a review.
Yeah. So, yeah, we got a time anomaly.
So, yes, tune in for our full review, like I said, tonight. Every good bit of detail, every scene, lots of stuff to talk about, as always. But, Stuart, what did you think of Episode 8, nearing the end of the first half of the first season? What do you think?
Could have been better. I like time anomaly stuff.
We're suckers
This
for that,
one, yeah, I like the sine wave explanation as to why faster and slower. I mean, good character development for Rock, but this one just wasn't as good as the last few for me. Sure, it was very Star Trek, felt very, I don't know, it just didn't quite work for me the way that the other ones have. You know, it's a simple time story, and that's fine. You see the ship get destroyed and things like that, but I don't know. I don't know how I feel about it. I'm eager to hear your thoughts on it, but what are your thoughts?
I don't know what you're gonna say. I'm kind of happy we're in the same boat. I don't think it clicks quite as well as it
The
should
same
have
boat
done.
with the chicken and the fox and the grain.
Now, I will say though that I did see on Twitter David Mack say he loved this episode, which meant I went in with higher expectations. Probably didn't help because I was sort of waiting for the secret source. And the last few of us we've kind of watched this week came, but they've been so good. So we watch a lot of sci-fi, a lot of time stuff. And yet I still found myself not quite understanding the plot until over halfway, or about halfway. And so I wasn't really with it until about halfway, and probably until about Zero gets killed. And by that point, they're already rushing through the story, but they haven't quite sold beyond it yet, even though they explained it a couple of times. So I think it's a very tricky thing to tell, especially for younger people, because it's not that straightforward. You know, it's so simple that it's straightforward, and yet it feels very repeaty. It's a weird one. I don't think it quite clicks.
It's not as good as Cause and Effect, for example.
Or Shattered from Voyager, which has Chakotay walking around. That was very, very good. But they also have double the length of time. And I think this definitely suffers from that, even though it feels dragged out at some points, which is so strange. I'm almost the most enjoying, though, and this is really sad, ironically, the stuff with Deadlock 2, because it like plays in, I was waiting for the bigger reveals and the Chakotay stuff. Like I'm waiting for more of that. And as soon as I got that, I'm like, okay, I'm back in, like even more so. And then there's so little satisfaction on those elements that I'm wanting more of. The main story, while fun, didn't satisfy the hunger, as it were, and so everything else. I'm like, I want the other meat. It was good. It was clever.
Well, we got a few reveals. I mean, Deadlock admitting that I can't kill you, Gwen, because that's not what the Diviner wants, even though I know for a fact that what the Diviner doesn't. I'm not sure you're his biggest mistake. Kind of love that. And we found out that even the bolts and screws are delta-shaped. They got delta-shaped screwdrivers, for crying out loud.
I mean, you can't get much more cringe, can you? It's 4 frames, but it's a cringy 4 frames. Yeah. I think also part of my vague problem is that there's a few logical... I don't buy they just fly into a nebula when they could go around it, and Janeway would be scanning and know, and the ship would warn them. So I don't buy they'd go in the first place. There's just, we're just going to fly in, even though they look at it, it looks dangerous, and they talk about it for a second. I don't buy they'd go into it in the first place. It should have either appeared around them or dropped out of warp or something. So that, the setup I didn't buy. And then when they reveal they're not cadets, Janeway saying they're still my crew and work with them, didn't buy that either. There should be a big payoff there of, okay, you guys are locked out and such, and that's part of the story. So two of the main story elements I didn't buy, and that's kind of hard to go forward when you just don't. Well, I don't think this feels real or realistic.
A better way to handle that would have been to have the Diviner and send the program to the vehicle replicator, have Deadlock actually mess with the system to put the ship into this anomaly, knowing that there'll be some time issues, so he may buy himself more time to get the Diviner ship there.
Oh, there we go.
Because we found out
boom.
we found out they are still months away. So like something like that. If you had an hour, I think they would have maybe done that.
Start off with being built would have been phenomenal. And because he knows that the further away he is from the anomaly, the more time, and so he wants to then take control of the ship. That's perfect. That solves it entirely. And then Rock is still the foil, as it were. But and then you have like Janeway being some secret encryption, whatever, and maybe by him breaking it, it allows her to trust them. So kind of like he has to break the program to use the program, which explains why she gives him access again. Like they're locked out, but yeah, that would have been a much better.
It's interesting he had Chakotay's command codes, though. Interesting to see how that kind of plays out. I mean, starting with the simple children's riddle of the fox, the chicken, and the grain was interesting. In case you guys
Look beautiful. That looked beautiful. Those green grass, wow.
In case you don't know, you take the chicken across, then you take the fox across, then you take the chicken back across, and you get the grain, and then you leave the chicken there, and you take the grain across to the fox, and you go back for the chicken. That's the solution to the riddle. A good way to start building team solving problems, which was interesting, and it's a children's riddle, so that's cool as well. And then Dal admitting that they're not Starfleet cadets, and Janeway looking shocked by it. It's like, seriously, we kind of had an idea that you were smarter than that, Janeway.
Yeah, they're really playing fast and loose with how capable this hologram is.
Yeah, absolutely there.
and it's not even, I don't even buy it really. I mean, it's a lovely thing for children, but do you really think, cadets would be given such an assignment on that she thinks they've been assigned this ship, and you give them this
ship, yeah,
and you give them this special thing, and this basic. There's an illogical there as well.
I gotta admit, you were right in the last episode where you saw the ship all in disarray. It was because of the kids, and I didn't think so when they were doing the Chakotay like voiceover of this crew screaming or whatever. So you were right about that. But they are kids; they're messy.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's weird because it obviously it feels very separated because you've got the rock toxin, you've got each individual segment, but they're all so short. And they're all sort of doing the exact same thing, give or take, thematically. So that it's kind of, but when Deadlocked shows up, it kind of the twist. Like there's a movement in the plot. That's I did quite like the 10 minutes, then it blows up anyway. I thought that was really quite fun, and although the technobabble I didn't buy. Why would you need a warp matrix to stabilize at gravity? And I do technobabble a lot.
Create an artificial warp bubble around the anomaly.
Well, that would have been more sensical.
I don't know. Maybe that's what they were going for, but I do like that.
And it's like the computer doesn't even if they know they're going to a gravity anomaly, the computer doesn't even warn them.
Yeah.
It's like just don't fly into the thing that's going to kill everybody. It's what I mean. There's no logicalness there.
I do like that Rock has some. This is something that'll stick with her because she's learning some self-confidence. She learned a bunch of stuff about engineering and math and temporal mechanics and stuff. So that's good. At least, and it started out with. Security officer, can you keep the chicken safe? Don't call me that. I don't want to be that because she's just a little girl, right? So that was good though. That I don't know how long necessarily she had. I would assume months by the sounds of things to kind of learn all that stuff. But that's good. Hopefully that carries over to the next couple episodes.
Yeah, I think that whole last 7 minutes is kind of saving grace the episode. It's real freaking sad, and I felt very down from it. Which means it's effective. And I appreciate, we've said this for a while now, that they are not so redundant characters, but there's no practical function of the Rock Talk character except a couple of lines. And so their conceit was, we're just going to age her up. And I got the context being maybe a couple of years, honestly, is how they're being completely, every step of the way they refuse to give numbers, which is actually very smart because then you can't call up on it. Just, nope, no numbers, time, too long, it's great. But I got a sense at least a year, if not two. And that's even assuming she's smart enough because
Jamie did say to feel like an eternity for you, so
yeah, because you kind of get the sense it's like a few days when she says that, because that's a long time in nothing's happening. But to learn all these things, actually learn them. She might be exaggerating, but even the dialogue was tweaked to be more mature. So I thought that was an interesting conceit. Will make the character fully realized by time jumping them 5-10 years or 2 or 3 years. Doesn't functionally change the plot, but now they're a useful character and science, I guess, which also goes against the expectation. It was nice, it was sad, it was effective. But is that strong enough to give the episode the weight? And then at the end, there isn't quite a satisfying enough payoff. There need to be another diviner thing. Yes, the Deadlock, he's a partially constructed robot head is something, but, he's not the biggest threat. It needs a stronger end as well.
I don't know about you if you noticed it, but when she was talking to Zero and we saw the sine wave, I looked for the next person on the sine wave, which was Murph. So as soon as she's like, this time who am I going to have? And I'm like, you're going to have Murph. Didn't you look?
Well, yeah.
Small little things like that kind of annoyed me a little bit, honestly, because you think Jaina would be a little bit smarter. But
Yeah, she's not a very capable hologram, let's be honest.
Well, she is until she isn't, right?
Well,
like,
yeah. But that Murph moment did make me genuinely laugh out loud because it's played so perfectly. She's like... and the thing that I thought was the most interesting thing in the entire episode was that... So 4,000 light years, long way. The Diviner ship only a few months, and it should be longer than a few months. That's real freaking fast, first of all. Although still far enough to be meaningful. That's still... Okay, but that still should be years, right?
Yeah. Well, just put it in context for anybody who doesn't know, 1,000 light years is about a year's worth at top speed for at least an Intrepid class. So 1,000 light years is about 1 year.
But the fact that it could wirelessly, obviously because they're not connected, connect the Protostar's computer, download a deadlock subroutine, and control it from 4,000 light years away is a mind-blowing moment. And also Deadlock know exactly where to get components from in the ship.
I think he had to look that up, didn't he? Where to get the component from? Because you saw the coupler show up on the little display, and then he turned around and started walking.
Well, still knew the ship better than everyone else, though, just in terms of...
Yes, absolutely, he did.
So that was a moment of, well, that's... if they have that much control and knowledge of the ship, why the hell can they find it for 10 years?
Yeah, no shit.
Like, literally, you got through its computer systems, its access codes, you have powerful enough. Why can't you tell the ship to turn around then? If you can send it via that, why can't you just turn the ship? You know, it was a very strange power play that completely changed the game, and yet... what do you think? It's such a big, sort of moment.
Well, yeah, it is confusing, and considering that the researching for the Protostar for so many years, I can understand it being powered down and then not being able to access the systems. And I love how the Diviner even said, now that we know where they are, we can do this. And that's when the vehicle replicator came online, so they needed an actual location for it. But yeah, please tell me that in the next episode, the first line or two is going to be, hey, we've changed all the access codes. Because yes, it's kind of an important thing to do at this point. So it was a little bit annoying. That's one of those things that, yeah, when they were chasing it the first time, why didn't they just shut everything down or, do the same thing, create another deadlock? Did he transfer his consciousness via this program, or are they actually controlling it like in real time? Because that's another interesting fact as well. This Rock Talk wasn't as advanced as the real one because he couldn't transform and get multiple limbs when he was getting blown out into space, which was interesting as well. So yes, the Matrix thing went out, but you have a transporter. Just lock onto it and beam it back in.
I mean, yeah, but then you can say transporter's out of temporal phase. I mean, that's,
Yes, absolutely. Well, yeah, I guess so.
Although it still managed to control the ship, and there's a whole lot. Yeah, it was. I got the sense it was a deadlock copy. I mean, he's more sense of robot. It's a basic version of his programming. He wasn't responding with the full force of his personality. It felt like just sort of baseline. But now, obviously, Chakotay, who we saw, is now it's a creation, it's a clone, it's a whatever, it's a build. But also, because you need to know what the replicator can do to build it, so they have to have a custom designed version of the program to send to it. So they've seen the ship before. They have intimate knowledge. I might have even had a full schematic of the ship at some point as part of the whatever. And obviously they know Chakotay, they have his access code. I remember one of our fans in our chat suggested that Deadlock is Chakotay, that he's been modified, whatever.
No, the Diviner. The Diviner is Chakotay.
Well, I had both. I've had Deadlock,
okay.
course of his consciousness, kind of because a way of keeping hold of him. Which is interesting, because I was like, when he went to the Chakotay's voice, I thought, is that the same? Have they just turned off like the modulation of the voice because it sounded so similar to Deadlock? But no, it is quite a different actor.
Is it his voice?
Well, it was Chakotay's voice. Yeah, that was the whole point.
I didn't even hear that.
Yeah, but they are different actors, so he did replicate the voice for that moment. But they obviously had to have his voice on file. They had to have his access code on file. I don't know if that's a hint. I don't know. They might have Chakotay. It's big question, very little answers, and just there's such a scale of who does what does where. It's very confusing.
Yeah, it is. This is another one. Answers one or two questions and raises a whole lot more. But yeah, this was a very self-contained story. I gotta say. So that was nice. But
Oh, although I will also one more thing say, this was obviously not a Dahl episode at all. Somewhat a Gwen. I like it was Rock Talk's big time to shine, and a bit of Jankum. I thought he got a better showing. So it's clearly they've had their lot of time. Let's show the secondary. So that was great, and obviously Janeway got the most lines by an absolute mile. So good for that stuff, but didn't quite click in the same way.
I think getting Janeway back was also like very simplified. Like, oh, they deleted you, but they just didn't write over that area, so I just restored it. It's like, what? Okay, fine. And why didn't you just delete the program to begin with? If you had access to the computer before, like years ago when we first saw Deadlock on board, just delete the hologram. But maybe they thought they might need it for questions or whatever, or didn't think it was an important system because it's just a training.
Well, there's also going to be hundreds of programs in the computer. I mean, you could make any version of any training hologram. Why is Janeway important? It's, you could make the MH.
Well, she is though, because she was the hologram that was talking to Chakotay.
Yeah, she was his chosen representative. But I mean, you could easily make a B'Elanna program and give a act like B'Elanna, add training simulation 4. Okay, now you got a B'Elanna program. So she's not like the god hologram. She's not like the EMH, the one most advanced program in the ship. This isn't a training ship. It's an NX test ship for the proto drive. They just happen to have activated a "Help Me Obi-Wan Kenobi" program. So maybe in our full breakdown, we'll have rewatched it, have different thoughts, and we'll analyse it in full depth, which I'm excited about, Stuart, as I always am.
Yes, so check that out later today at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We break down scene by scene, as you guys know. But yeah, so I guess we'll leave it there. What are your thoughts on this episode, guys? Put your comments down below. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and like I said, click the notification bell icon so you don't miss our lives, because we do go into more depth. Plus, you guys can interact with us. If you have questions or suggestions or theories, it's a great time to super chat and help support the channel at the same time. So if you can, join us for those.
And if you want to support what we do directly, because we can need it, so if you can, please do, then help us out by donating via Patreon or joining the channel. Both are monthly, and every $5, either one does make a difference, or one-time donations via PayPal at trekyards@hotmail.com, or super chatting during our lives, which is great, interactive, one-on-one, two-on-one, have many people watching, that sort of thing. Check us out, say hi, and you can often alter how we do things and think and maybe even fix those answers. And as I said, someone had a theory that I talked about in this review, so check us out and see what you think and say hi.
That's right. So until next time, I'm Captain Foley, and he is Commander Coggins. Oh, sorry.